This is A View from the Bunker. Now, here's Derek Gilbert.
Partying like it's 1939. Welcome to A View from the Bunker. I'm Derek Gilbert. This week's program going to be just me sitting in front of the camera. It's been kind of a hectic couple of weeks here in the bunker as life took an unexpected turn. I mentioned this last week. Nothing that I'm overly fearful about or anything like that. As I mentioned last week, I will be going in for surgery at the end of this week as you're watching this, first week of November, to correct something that was discovered when I complained to my doctor about something completely unrelated, or what appears to be unrelated. What I thought was just an old guy thing, getting some numbness in my toes, and wanted to check it out. Is this neurological? Is there some vitamin supplement? If I push vitamin B even harder than I already do, would that solve it? Doctor thought, well, this may be vascular, so sent me for testing, and they discovered a small aneurysm in the iliac artery of my left leg. That's the big artery that branches off from the aortic artery. You get one left and one right, and the left one's got a small 2.4 centimeter aneurysm in it. At that size, many doctors won't even try to correct it, but the vascular surgeon thought it would be a good idea to go in there, put a stent in there to sort of bypass the aneurysm. So anyway, the last couple of weeks, schedules have been a little goofy as I've had to go for various testing, EKG, echocardiogram this past week, all good. So the good news is I'm going into this procedure with no comorbidities. Blood work looks good. No obstacles going into or out of my heart. So that's a good thing. So this is relatively routine and minor surgery. My dad once said he had an angioplasty at age 54. Dad had smoked heavily when he was a younger man, and his eating habits were not as good as ours have been the last 10 years. Of course, Sharon and I really changed our eating habits at about, when I was about age 54. So, but thankfully, Dad's angioplasty, he said, was, they described it as minor surgery, but he said, minor surgery is an operation on somebody else. So we'll see. I had really, really hoped to make it through this life without having surgical steel inserted into my nether regions, but, it is what it is. So I will be probably repeating some older episodes, some archival episodes, maybe for the rest of the year. I'm not sure how my recovery time will take. There will be a new Iron and Myth program in November. That's already recorded and just needs to be edited, and that can be done fairly easily. So that'll be coming mid-month, let's see, the 3rd, 10th, that'll be November 17th. So there will be a new Iron and Myth episode coming mid-November. And if I'm feeling well by Thanksgiving weekend, then hopefully we can get one recorded for December as well, because the Iron and Myth episodes with Doug Van Dorn, Dr. Judd Burton, and Brian Godawa are certainly the most popular episodes that we've been running on this program the last couple of years. So, and I look forward to those conversations with those fellows every month. But as you know, if you're anywhere on planet Earth, the American presidential election, and as well, elections for our congressional representatives and senators for a third of the states will be taking place on Tuesday. We're being warned to expect the vote tally to take longer than just one night, which is sort of, we've been conditioned now to expect this for the last couple of years. COVID sort of gave the powers that be the excuse to do things that previously were agreed upon by everybody, left, right, and center, as just opening a doorway to fraud. Casting ballots by mail, ballot harvesting, things like this. They were just not allowed prior to that, because it seemed everybody agreed that these were not secure ways to conduct an election. But, COVID gave them the excuse to do it. And so here we are. These are the new rules. But, I grew up in Chicago. My mother was volunteered as a Republican election judge, which basically meant she was just a poll worker during the elections in Chicago. And if you know anything about Chicago politics, it's been dominated by Democrats for pretty much the last century. She told me that it was common knowledge in our little precinct of blue collar workers. We had a lot of Greeks and Poles in our neighborhood. It was mostly Roman Catholic. Had a very big parish that was just a few blocks away, St. Angela's, in the Austin neighborhood, and it was common knowledge that the Democrats would generate more votes in our precinct than there were registered voters. That was just an accepted fact. There was no two ways about it. The Daley machine, Richard J., not Richard M., Richard J. Daley, his father, controlled the party, and the party controlled city politics. That's just how it was. So election irregularities are not a new thing. I'm going to try to be careful here. I may already be towing the line with community guidelines as far as YouTube is concerned. Not going to question the results of any election just in case YouTube's algorithm is listening. I'm not questioning any results, just pointing out that this is not a new thing. Back in 2006, I did an interview with a woman named Bev Harris, who headed up an organization called Black Box Voting. And you can find that in the archives here at VFTB.net. I encourage you to go back and listen to it. It was audio only because the interview was conducted for the radio station I was working for at the time. That was a daily secular political talk show on a station called Eagle 93.9 in Columbia, Missouri. Bev was very open about the ability of people to tamper with electronic voting machines back in 2006. So this is known. This has been known for more than 20 years, and the fact that it's not been fixed is because neither party really wants it to be fixed, because it's just with the power of the presidency. The other party only complains the president has too much power when they're not the ones in power. But even then, they only go so far in complaining about the power of the executive branch, because they're just waiting for their chance to get their guy back in office. I mean, really, in Washington, D.C., you've got a uniparty that is controlling things. You can call it the deep state if you want to, but they are both, it's like professional wrestling, but with better suits. They fight like cats and dogs on the political talk shows. And some of the true believers, the ones who are, the junkyard dogs who go out there and really rant and rave about the other party on MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, and other channels. But behind the scenes, the strategists, the consultants, the party organizers, they're getting together. And the politicians themselves get together and go out for drinks afterwards and laugh that we out here in flyover land actually think that we've got a real choice. I think in certain cases we do have real choices, but it's very rare when somebody comes along who actually has a shot at winning. And Donald Trump, I think, really upset their apple cart in 2016. They did not expect him to win, nor did they expect him to stick around as long as they have. They've tried everything at throwing at him, or they have thrown everything they can think of at him in terms of lawfare and just bad press. Media Research Group, MRC, Media Research Council, has analyzed the coverage that Trump has received, compared it to the coverage of Harris. 78% of the coverage on the big three networks and the cable news networks received by Trump is negative, whereas something like 85%, or maybe it's the other way around, maybe 85% of Trump's coverage is negative and 78% of Harris's coverage is positive from the major networks. No surprise, because Trump is not, as Newt Gingrich said, and I think he may have been more literal than most people figure, Trump doesn't know the secret handshake. He's not part of the club. In the same way, we hear from our Israeli friends that Benjamin Netanyahu is not part of the club there. He was educated in the United States, which makes him an outsider to the elite in Jerusalem. They consider him an outsider, besides the fact that he's conservative. He's not a socialist. This was something we just learned recently as far as Israeli politics goes. If you're not a socialist, you really aren't part of the political class. You are an outsider. And so they throw the same kind of stuff at Netanyahu that the American elites are throwing at Trump. And I think it's the same way. The American elites, the political class here, pretty much socialists. They've been indoctrinated by academia for decades that into the ways of Stalin, and and hearing myself talk like this is kind of eye-opening, because I remember my father back in the 80s when I was just getting close to getting out of college. I graduated from college in 84, and hearing my dad talk about communism and socialism and the evils thereof. And this was around the time that, Reagan was saying things like, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. And I thought, oh, Dad, communism is dead. It's a dead issue. This is just you were raised during the Cold War of the 50s. That's when this is all past. And the older I get, the more I realize my dad keeps getting smarter, even though the Lord called him home in 2005. Socialism, communism is still around. It is well ingrained in our academic system here in the United States and in the West. And it is a clear and present danger to the society that we grew up in, and to the liberties that we enjoy as Americans. As we've seen during this election cycle, one of the political parties is openly calling for censorship, because free speech is dangerous. If we're allowed to say everything that comes into our pointy little heads, well, that is a threat to our democracy. So the government needs to step in and regulate what can be shared on social media, needs to regulate what we can say on fora like this. Assuming you're watching this on social media, we highly encourage you, by the way, to get our app for that very reason, because social media has been all too willing to go along with government suggestions to censor things that don't toe the line when it comes to the official narrative about various things. So gilberthouse.org/app, which is where you will find our app for iOS, Android, Amazon, Kindle Fire, also Roku, Fire TV, and Apple TV. The content on the app and on the television devices, to the TV apps, comes right from the Christian company that has developed the app. So they're not inclined to censor us. On the other social media sites, you can never tell. So anyway, one of the political parties that says it wants to save democracy because the other party's leading candidate is just like the leader of the National Socialist Party from the 1930s. That's the party that's calling the other guy the fascist. They're the ones who want to clamp down on free speech. I wish I had thought of this phrase, but it's absolutely true. The iron law of projection. The iron law of projection is what we're seeing from Democrats and liberals. They basically have been trained, and maybe it's because they were afraid that conservatives will think of this first. It's like the reverse golden rule: do unto others before, and do it quick before they can do it to you. They're afraid, and we've seen this in a number of stories from the media here just in the last couple of weeks, that Donald Trump is going to lock up his political enemies. Harris has made this claim on the campaign that he's going to use the army against his political enemies, and that he's going to clamp down. It'll be the end of our democracy as we know it. But again, this is the party, the Democratic Party, that has weaponized the Internal Revenue Service against conservative Christian organizations, has used the legal system, the FBI, which we now know, by the way, ran an off-the-books op against, or at least a whistleblower made this claim this week. The House Judiciary Committee is investigating it. Ran an off-the-books op to plant a couple of honeypots, female FBI agents, inside Trump's campaign back in 2015, targeting his advisor, George Papadopoulos, trying to seduce him and compromise him. This under former FBI Director James Comey. So the FBI, the Justice Department, has been weaponized against the political opposition by the Democratic Party, and they're the ones accusing Trump of being a wannabe dictator, that he would be a dictator on day one. Well, the Democrats have been doing this since Barack Obama was inaugurated in 2009. So we have been hearing, or at least I've been hearing, ever since, I think, 1992, the George H.W. Bush versus Bill Clinton election, that this election is the most important in our lifetime. And finally, in 2024, I'm inclined to agree that that's true. Not that I'm afraid of what Kamala Harris will do, because frankly, I think she's just an empty suit. She's more ambition than she is ability. But her handlers are certainly looking to tear apart the Constitution and the fabric of the society that I grew up in. Again, her party, the Democratic Party, is the one that is accusing Trump and Trump's supporters of being racist, misogynist, xenophobic. They're using phrases like Christo-fascists, Christian fascists, to describe our policies and our beliefs, while they are, in fact, the ones who have shown a demonstrated willingness to use the power of government to silence political opposition. Ask Steve Bannon about that. Ask Roger Stone about that. Ask Donald Trump about that. So I don't look forward to America under 4 years of Kamala Harris, or 8 years if we are doomed to that. But as a Christian, just remember that if it happens, it's only because God is allowing it for his purposes. And maybe it's because we Christians need a kick in the pants to get us motivated and mobilized. Said this back in 2021 after the Biden inauguration. When Trump came in 2016, the day after the election, we had a program on Skywatch TV where several of us sat down to try to figure out what do we make of this? Because it was really unexpected. You might remember election night 2016, going into it, and Hillary Clinton we were told, had a 92% chance of winning going in. And I was watching the poll trackers as the numbers were coming in at the New York Times, and how the numbers kept shrinking. Not sure what Gloria is on about in the background. Maybe there's a crow in the front yard. That's something that usually triggers her. And the next day, we sat down to try to figure out, how do we process this now? Trump wasn't supposed to win, and suddenly he did. Now what? And our conclusion between those of us in that conversation, me, Joe Horn, and a couple of other fellows, was that we had been given an opportunity, a reprieve from the weaponization of the government against people of faith, and that we shouldn't waste it by sitting back and saying, okay, all right, we got our man in office now and everything's fine. We don't need to do. We need to get busy whenever we have an opportunity, preaching the gospel, sharing the hope that we have in Jesus Christ, and the reasons that we can believe the Word of God as recorded in Scripture. Because even if Donald Trump is declared the winner this coming week, or whenever the votes are finally fully counted, he's only got one more term, and then the pendulum will likely swing back in the other direction. And the arc of history shows us that government tends to consolidate more and more power as it goes along. People in government, people in power, tend to consolidate power and then seek more. We've seen this here in the United States. Prior to the Civil War, the war between the states, it was common to refer to the Union as these United States. And after 1865, it became the United States, because power had been consolidated in Washington, D.C., and that was one of the consequences, one of the outcomes of the American Civil War. We have been conditioned to believe that the federal government should be all-powerful and that whoever sits in the Oval Office should be able to wield it, which is why you hear candidates for president of both parties saying, I will do this and I will do that. It's like, excuse me, the media, if it was doing its job, journalists would be saying, excuse me, sir, where in the Constitution do you think you draw the power to do this as president from? Because what you're saying you're going to try to do is actually legislative, and that means Congress is going to have to do it. I'm going to cut your taxes and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do. President doesn't have that power. You can't just do that. I mean, Joe Biden's been trying to do this over the past couple of years with student loan forgiveness, which really isn't loan forgiveness. It's just taking the loan balances and pushing it off on the taxpayers. Supreme Court has slapped it down a couple of times. He's trying it again just ahead of the election. Coincidentally, yeah. But we don't even ask the question anymore, and the media doesn't question it either. It's like we want a king instead of wanting the kind of government the framers of the Constitution outlined. We'd get the government we deserve, I suppose. One of the most disturbing aspects of this election, and this is the strangest presidential election of my lifetime, is that the constant accusations over the last couple of weeks, as Democrats realized they got nothing to run on when it comes to Kamala Harris. They got nothing to run on when it comes to the record of the last 3.5 years, really. So they're going with the F word, fascist. Trump is a fascist. Trump is a fascist. Media outlets, even NPR, which years ago, bless my pointy little head, I thought was a bastion of serious and responsible journalism, running with this story. Trump, as you know, last weekend had a rally at Madison Square Garden. And Harris, and then dutifully the media, which got their talking points from the DNC, started running with this story that, back in 1939, the German-American Federation, or the German-American Bund, it was called, held a rally there, a pro-Hitler rally at Madison Square Garden. This is just like that. Worst fascist rally ever. If you saw any of the pictures on social media, you had guys, Jewish guys wearing their kippahs, some of them who were Haredi, the ultra-Orthodox, wearing their black suits and hats, standing in line. Clearly they didn't get the memo that there was a Hitler wannabe inside the garden there. There was a picture from the stands where there was a young man with a kippah sitting 2 rows in front of a Muslim woman wearing a full hijab. So you get Muslims there, and Jews, Orthodox and ultra-Orthodox, at a rally that was supposed to emulate the 1939 German-American Bund rally. This was being reported by NPR, MSNBC, CNN, and of course all the Democratic Party spokespeople. Absolutely astonishing and really hilarious when you think about it, because the Madison Square Garden of 1939 is not the Madison Square Garden of today. It's not even the same place. Today's Madison Square Garden was built in 1968. Different building. And oh, by the way, Hillary Clinton, as a brand new senator from the state of New York, held a rally at Madison Square Garden. And her husband, Bill, back in 1992, accepted the Democratic Party's nomination at Madison Square Garden. The desperation is palpable. Now, how things turn out, don't know. Still looks very close. Frankly, if Kamala Harris was running against anybody else, it wouldn't be close. It wouldn't be close. But if anybody else running from the Republican side had gotten the nomination, they probably would have been an approved candidate by the deep state, which is why it wouldn't be close. So, Washington, D.C. is boarding up. This was a story reported just a couple of days ago, and that's disturbing that in Washington, D.C., you've got government buildings and businesses that are boarding up the fronts of their buildings, covering up their windows, as though they're preparing for a hurricane, because they're afraid that if things go a certain way on Tuesday or Wednesday, that there'll be violence and a lot of property damage. When did we get to a point where we thought, well, okay, this is just a normal consequence of a presidential election? Well, you can answer that question. It goes back 8 years to Donald Trump unexpectedly winning the election in 2016. And after his inauguration in 2017, you remember the fiery but mostly peaceful protests, riots, property damage in Washington, D.C., cars set on fire, windows smashed, and so on. Well, you can understand if you're a business owner in D.C., which has become kind of a lawless place anyway, why you would want to not have to spend a couple of days after the election repairing your storefront. But the fact that this is necessary is what's really bothersome. I mean, we Americans like to pride ourselves on our peaceful transfers of power. They've not always been peaceful, but generally so. But I just think it's disturbing that this is even a thing. And most people are like, oh, yeah, good idea. Yeah, board up because things probably, it's like, police, National Guard. I mean, isn't there a way to keep this from actually happening? Why are we thinking that this is even going to happen? Because this again, the iron law of projection, according to liberals, we're the ones who are going to get violent if things don't go our way. It's like, really? Like what happened in 2020? It didn't happen. The so-called insurrection of January 6th, 2021, where a bunch of people who were told to go peacefully protest were let into the, won't even go there because, get the show pulled. But you know what I'm saying? Again, the iron law of projection. They're afraid we're going to do what they're already thinking about doing. And so they're accusing us of preparing to do it, even though it's just not going to be that way. Anyway, one of the other things that, by the way, just the projection from some on the left has just gotten to a point where it is absolutely insane. For example, on The View, which is a repository for low information women speaking to, I don't know who finds that show enjoyable, entertaining, and certainly not informative. Whoopi Goldberg on The View claims that Trump plans to break up interracial married couples and deport the person who's not white. Boy, did he tell J.D. Vance about this? Because, J.D.'s married to a woman of color and his children are then mixed race. This is a thing that she actually said on the program, and ABC allowed it to get to air. I don't know where you get that. 76% of Americans worried about post-election violence, not surprised, considering the news and this drip, drip, drip of, things are going to get kinetic if things are. But again, it's because the left keeps calling Trump and his supporters bigoted, racist, white nationalists, white supremacists, not white nationalists, white supremacists who want to forcibly remove anybody from the country. Again, they're projecting because I think given the opportunity, there are a lot of us who openly espouse faith in Jesus Christ that they would like to see removed from the country. What's really bizarre in this election cycle, and things I did not see coming in this campaign, just announced or just reported today, I should say, by justthenews.com, that Somali leaders in Minnesota, there's a large Somali community in Minnesota. This is the area where Representative Ilhan Omar comes from, a very liberal member of the Democratic Party, which is ironic that she is an openly Muslim woman who is very liberal, because that's not consistent with Sharia, I guarantee you. These leaders on Saturday at a rally in Minnesota endorsed Donald Trump for president. There was a press conference, lasted for an hour. 10 different Somali leaders from Minnesota endorsed Donald Trump. Somali leader Mohammed Ahmed said during the conference, "Our conditions are horrible. We can't afford anything as working class and middle class people. Now, please understand this. We love our brothers and sisters who are Democrats, but you left us." Another leader said, under Donald J. Trump, the economy was a lot better than what we have right now. We're being lied to about inflation rates, employment rates, education rates, housing rates. This is not acceptable. In addition, he said Trump promised to stop the ongoing war in the Middle East between Hamas and Israel. And because of this, a number of Muslim leaders from Michigan, which is home to America's largest Muslim population, endorsed Trump last weekend. Again, did not see this coming. And not what you would expect if people were really buying the media spin that Trump is a wannabe dictator and a white supremacist and a fascist. So let's hope that people are waking up, doing their own research, and realizing that the corporate media is lying to us. I mean, it was a scales from the eyes moment for me back around 1994, 5, whenever it was, when Kenneth Starr produced The Blue Dress. If you're old like me, you remember that story. And suddenly I realized, wait, Bill Clinton lied about not having relations with that woman? What else did he lie to me about? Well, there are people who are doing some research here and finding out that Democrats have been lying about Trump, lying about a lot of other things. So who knows where this will lead? But again, as Christians, we need to remember that salvation does not come at the ballot box. We will not vote Jesus into the White House. We're not voting Jesus onto the Supreme Court. And if you're having difficulty voting for Donald Trump, and I'm not here to try to sell you on Trump. I'm just going to suggest this. Just remember, we're not voting for a pastor-in-chief or a theologian-in-chief. We're hiring a man to do a dirty job. Being president of the United States requires somebody who's going to get in there and fight in a way that you can get things done in a system that is set up to chew up and spit out people who play fair. I honestly don't see how a legitimate Bible-believing Christian, and I'm making no comment on whether President Trump is or is not, just saying, I don't see how anybody can really walk your faith and be successful at high levels of politics, because it is a dirty business. And if you're not willing to play that game, then if you're not willing to play the game that way, then you shouldn't play the game. Get involved in local politics where you can be a Christian and have influence in your local community, local school board, county commission, so forth. Do that. But boy, when you're looking for a candidate you can support as a Christian for president, remember, you're hiring somebody to do a job. You're not voting for a pastor-in-chief. One more thing before we take a break, and that is regarding Israel. Israel has been warned to expect an attack from Iran imminently. As I'm recording this on Saturday evening, the reports were on Friday evening that it would probably be within 48 hours. So obviously, we're about halfway through that 48-hour period. Hezbollah has launched a number of projectiles as of 11 p.m. today, Israel time. Nearly 100 of them have been launched into Israeli airspace from Lebanon. The defense minister there, Yoav Gallant, says that only about 20% of Hezbollah's rockets and missiles still remain, but clearly that is still enough to launch dozens of them into Israel. In fact, one of them made impact today, and about a dozen people were hurt. So again, pray for the peace of Jerusalem. According to the New York Times reporting on Thursday, Ayatollah Khamenei decided on Monday of this week to launch a more muscular response to Israel's attack last week, because apparently the damage to Iran's anti-aircraft missile batteries, some key energy infrastructure, and a key port was more substantial than what Iran admitted to the media. So Ayatollah Khamenei wanting to hit back and hit back hard with, reportedly, according to New York Times, missiles and drones launched from Iraq. So Aaron Lipkin in Israel has said that it was expected within 48 hours. And again, we're about halfway through that now. So if it happens, it may already be in the past by the time you see this. And we're just praying that Iron Dome and the other anti-missile defenses in Israel will hold and that this does not escalate. But to that end, we've got a major announcement about our planned tour of Israel in 2025, and another endorsement that Kamala Harris maybe wishes she didn't get from Cardi B. Bless her pointy little head. That's coming up as A View from the Bunker continues. Our new book, The Gates of Hell, is available now, and we have a special offer on it at the Gilbert House store.
You know, you're not going to find a deal like this anywhere else. You're going to get the book, which is a $21.95 value. You're going to get 3 DVDs.
More than 12 hours of video content, plus the book for just $45. That's half price.
That's half price because the whole package at retail is over $90.
The Gates of Hell tackles mysteries like where was Jesus baptized and why did he choose to get baptized in a place known as the Land of the Serpent?
Oh my goodness, you want this deal. This is the kind of thing that you can share with your friends, share with your pastor, read again, because trust me, the source information that Derek and I used for this, you're not going to find it anywhere else.
Right. It's not just an archaeological or historical curiosity. It is relevant to us today. Again, a special offer for the month of October only at gilberthouse.org/store. Talking the Walk every Sunday night from the beautiful Missouri Ozarks. This is A View from the Bunker. I'm Derek Gilbert. Our website, VFTB.net. That's where you'll find all the archives going back to 2009. You'll find us on social media, X, formerly Twitter, at View from Bunker, also at Derek Gilbert and at GilbertHouse_TV. Follow our page on Facebook, and you'll get us on Truth Social, Gab, and MeWe as well, at Derek P. Gilbert. YouTube, it's at Gilbert House. Please subscribe, share, click the bell for notifications, hit that like button, and then guarantee we never get canceled by downloading our free app. That is the way to do it. It bypasses the gatekeepers and brings all of our content, audio and video, right into your smartphone or tablet. We've got it for iOS, Android, Amazon Kindle Fire phones and tablets, also versions for Amazon Fire TV, Roku, and Apple TV as well. And you'll find links to all of that at gilberthouse.org/app, gilberthouse.org/app. Well, Kamala Harris and her campaign tried to leverage star power to bring the power of pop stars, movie stars into the campaign, hoping that if you get endorsements from Mark Hamill of Star Wars, Bruce Springsteen, Willie Nelson, that might get you to vote for Kamala Harris. The promised campaign, or the promised performance by Beyonce last week did not go well, as the word went out there, not just from the campaign, but corporate media outlets reporting that Beyonce was supposed to join Kamala on stage in, I believe it was Houston, and perform. She didn't. She spoke for about 3.5 minutes and then left, and a lot of people were angry. Reportedly, some people had waited up to 10 hours to get into that rally so they could see Beyonce. So anyway, not always going to work in your favor if you don't give people what they want. Well, she brought Cardi B in. Cardi B is a rapper who's vulgar, shall we say, and she gave a little stump speech reading it off of her phone, which is not a good look to start with. Look, it would be a completely different program here if I spent my whole show looking like this instead of, at the camera. But that's what Cardi did. But during her pitch, she really emphasized that the reason to vote for Kamala is because rent is too high, groceries are too high. She said, groceries are they're even expensive for me. And the subtext there is, and I'm rich. But the point is, the prices have gone up. And if you haven't been paying attention, they went up really beginning in 2021. The American Reconstruction Act that Biden pushed through Congress, spending a lot of money, putting a lot more money into circulation, that's what causes inflation. That's what causes prices to go up. So Cardi basically giving a stump speech, and it's like, hey, look, we agree prices are going up too high. Maybe let's not vote for the person who was in office when the prices went up. Bless her pointy little head. We got a couple of conferences to tell you about. The Skywatch TV virtual conference called The Resurrection War will go live on the web on November 30th, by which I mean the video presentations will be available for you to watch beginning November 30th. 90 days access. It's $85 through November 15th, $95 after November 15th. So take advantage of the early bird discount. Boy, some of this, well, I'll forget some speakers if I start listing names here, but you can find them all at defenderconference.com. A lot of people that you will be familiar with, Judd Burton, Doug Van Dorn, Ali Siadatan, among others, Pastor Carl Gallups, see, now I'm doing it anyway, Zev Porat, and many more, Ryan Pitterson, and of course, yours truly. Got mine done last week. I need to edit it and get it uploaded, but hi, Grace. Grace is telling me I've gone too long. So defenderconference.com to sign up for that. Branson will be at the Branson Christmas Prophecy Conference December 5th through 8th, praying that all goes well. My last post-op visit with the vascular surgeon is that morning, December 5th. So I asked him, please put me first on the schedule that day. So I'll go there in the morning, come home, and then we'll go down to Branson for the conference that afternoon. This is at the Chateau on the Lake, which is a beautiful facility, and it will be decked out for Christmas. We were there for a Skywatch TV Christmas party a few years ago. It is beautiful, wonderful place to visit, and Branson at Christmas in general is gorgeous. So if you can spend a couple of extra days there, go to Silver Dollar City and see it. That will be well worth it. Grace, hi, sweetie. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, thanks. Okay, hop down. Thanks. That'll be December 5th through 8th. I'll be speaking there along with L.A. Marzulli, Bill Salas, Billy Crone, Ken Johnson, Josh Peck, Mondo Gonzalez, Lieutenant Colonel Robert McGinnis, Alex Newman, Brandon Holthouse, many others. You can find the complete list at BransonChristmasProphecyConference.com, BransonChristmasProphecyConference.com. Now, mentioned before the break, a major announcement regarding our tour of Israel. Because of the ongoing conflict and the fact that it's had a discouraging effect on people signing up. And I understand, when you're going over there, you don't really want to come under missile fire. So we have made the decision to reschedule the conference, or reschedule the tour, rather, from March, late March, early April 2025 to October. We're confirming with Doug Van Dorn and Tim Alberino, Judd Burton, that the new dates will work for them. Have not confirmed the new dates with Lipkin Tours yet. They've got to work out making sure we don't conflict with the high holy days there. I mean, you've got Yom Kippur and Sukkot, Feast of Tabernacles, in October. But we're looking at the second half of October 2025. If you were one who signed up and put down your registration, your deposit, that is, and cannot accommodate the new dates, Lipkin Tours will refund it in full. We got had a lot of experience with having to reschedule tours during the COVID lockdown, so this is not something new and unexpected. Sadly, this is really putting a hurt on the Israeli economy because, frankly, the only people going over there right now are those who want to, for the most part, volunteer to help out the farmers who are trying to get the crops in, and a lot of those farmers are being deployed by the IDF. So a lot of foreign workers over there helping out, but larger tour groups really, sadly, have been discouraged from getting over there. And ours, one of them, we will move back from March through to next October, and we will get you the updated dates as soon as we have that confirmed from Lipkin Tours. But the latest information will always be at our website, gilberthouse.org/travel, gilberthouse.org/travel. Thank you for taking time out of your schedule to watch or listen again. The next few weeks, probably going to be some classic episodes, things that we've not put out on the channel for 6-7 years. We'll try to find video content that we can recycle. But again, as I'm recuperating from surgery, just going to be looking for ways to not have to sit on the incision, if you know what I mean, for very long. And so appreciate your patience while I'm recuperating. Probably may do this through the end of the year because we got a book project to start working on. Got new books out and another book project already in the works. So, but if you get a spare moment, sure would appreciate you leaving a review. If you subscribe at Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Google Podcast. No, it's YouTube Music now. iHeartRadio, Spotify, Spreaker, Pandora, wherever else you find us, which is, of course, wherever fine podcasts are sold. Our announcer is the inimitable DC Good, and A View from the Bunker is a production of Gilbert House Ministries, released under Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives 4.0 International License. We wrestle not against flesh and blood. Good night, Oliver, wherever you are. I'm Derek Gilbert. This is A View from the Bunker.